Do I read now?
Yeah, you can read.
Temperatures on Earth have increased approximately 1.8 degree Fahrenheit since the early 20th century. Over this time period, atmospheric levels of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane have notably increased. Both sides in the debate surrounding global climate change agree on these points. The pro side argues rising levels of atmospheric greenhouse gases are a direct result of human activities such as burning fossil fuels, and that these increases are causing significant and increasingly severe climate changes, including global warming, loss of sea ice, sea level rise, strong storms, and more droughts. They contend that immediate international action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions is necessary to prevent dire climate changes.
Okay, that was good. Well done for taking over that part. Okay.
Thank you.
Now,
Um,
wait a second. Is this meant to be Jihu again? Or Hongyeon?
J.
It should be Jie. Jie should do the reading.
yeah, I thought I would do the reading in that part.
Yeah, so what was actually going to happen is instead of Jihu reading, it would we let Hongyeon read because they're on the same team, correct?
Yes.
Also, like
So-
Hongyan is taking over Jihu.
Yeah, correct. Just for the reading part, and then now Jie will do the reading.
How about
so-
for Jihu's debating part?
We'll see if she can get her connection back in time for her debate part.
Okay.
So, does that mean that I have to read the same thing also?
Yeah, you both do a reading part.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
야, 벌써 시간 시작했어.
Jie, you may read now.
Temperatures on Earth have increased
하고 있어.
by approximately 1.8 Fahrenheit
카메라 안
since the
된대.
early 20th century. Over this time period, atmospheric levels of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, CO2, and methane, CH4, have notably increased. Both sides in the debate surrounding global climate change agree on these points. The pro side argues rising levels of atmospheric greenhouse gases are a direct result of human activities such as burning fossil fuels, and that these increases are causing significant and increasingly severe climate changes, including global warming, loss of sea ice, sea level rise, stronger storms, and more droughts. They contend that immediate international action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions is necessary to prevent dire climate changes. I strongly agree in the idea that human-generated greenhouse gas emissions are too small to substantially...
It's okay, Jie. You
yeah?
just had to do the reading, and then we'll come back
okay.
to your part for the debating. No problem.
Oh my gosh, I wrote too much to the amounts I had to read.
That's okay. No problem. You just
Okay.
had to read that part.
Then in the next part, when I do the conclusion, I can do other than the reading, right?
Yun Sung does the conclusion, I believe. Yeah, but we'll come back to you for the debating. Then you can say your own part. Okay, so Hongyeon, you can do your debate now.
Okay. I believe that human activity is primarily responsible for global climate change. Firstly, the rise in the atmospheric carbon dioxide over the last century was caused by humans, as it occurred at a rate much faster than natural climate changes could produce. Over the past 650,000 years, atmospheric carbon dioxide levels did not rise above 300 parts per million until the mid-20th century. Atmospheric levels of carbon dioxide have risen from about 370 parts per million in 1958 to 400 parts per million in 2013. Carbon dioxide levels are estimated to reach 450 parts per million by the year 2040. Secondly, as sunlight hits the Earth, some of the warmth is absorbed by greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, such as carbon dioxide and methane. These gases trap heat and cause the planet to warm through a process called greenhouse effect. Since 1751, about 337 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide have been released into the atmosphere from the burning of fossil fuels and cement production. Methane traps 84 times as much heat as carbon dioxide. Lastly, sea levels are rising at an unprecedented rate due to global warming. As human-produced greenhouse gases warm the planet, sea levels are rising due to thermal expansion of warming ocean waters as well as meltwater from receding glaciers and the polar ice cap. According to the IPCC, there has been a substantial human contribution to the global mean sea level rise since the 1970s, and there is high confidence that the rate of sea level rise over the last half century has accelerated faster than it has over the previous 2,000 years.
Okay. Sorry about that. I just lost a bit of connection there myself. That was very good. Okay. Move on to Yunsung.
In 2010, Climate Depot released a report featuring more than 1,000 scientists, several of them former UN IPCC International Panel on Climate Change scientists, who disagree that humans are primarily responsible for global climate change. The Cook review of 11,944 peer-reviewed studies found 66.4% of the studies had no stated position on anthropogenic global warming, and while 32.6% of the studies implied or stated that humans are contributing to climate change, only 65 papers, 0.5%, explicitly stated that humans are the primary cause of rising global warming. The 2012 Purdue University survey found that 47% of climatologists challenged the idea that humans are primarily responsible for climate change and instead believe that climate change caused by an equal combination of humans and environment, 37% mostly by the environment, 5% or that there's not enough information to say 5%. Although the planet has warmed 1 to 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit over the 20th century, it is within the plus or minus 5 degrees Fahrenheit range of the past 3,000 years. A 2003 study by researchers at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics found that many records reveal that the 20th century is probably not the warmest nor a uniquely extreme climatic period of the last millennium. In 2005, study published in Nature found that high temperatures similar to those observed in the 20th century before 1990 occurred around Anno Domini 1000 to 1100 in the northern hemisphere. A 2013 study published in Boreas found that the summer temperature during the Roman Empire and the medieval periods were consistently higher than temperatures during the 20th century. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, recognized a slowdown in global warming over the past 15 years in its 2013 report. According to the Harlan Institute's 2013 NIPCC report, the Earth has not warmed significantly for the past 16 years, despite an 8% increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide. According to the emeritus professor of meteorology at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Richard Litzen, PhD, the IPCC's excuse for the absence of warming over the past 17 years is that the heat is hiding in the deep ocean. However, this is simply an admission that the climate models failed to simulate the exchanges of heat between the surface layers and the deeper oceans. Thank you.
That's very good. Using up all the time there. Okay, so Jihu, have we got some progress? Jihu?
Oh no.
Oh no, indeed. If we can't hear from you, then unfortunately we're going to have to skip over you because it will hold up the whole session. I'm guessing it's just an internet problem, if I'm not mistaken. If that's the case, hopefully you can get it fixed by next time. But for now, we're going to move on to JE.
I strongly agree in the idea that human-generated greenhouse gas emissions are too small to substantially change the Earth's climate and that the planet is capable of absorbing these increases. I do so contend that the change in the Earth's climate I do so contend that warming over the 20th century resulted primarily from natural processes such as fluctuations in the sun's heat and ocean's currents. The theory of human-caused global climate change is based on questionable measurements, faulty climate models, and misleading science. Even when human activities affect the climate change, they are not as powerful as problems caused by natural disasters of causes. Droughts, numerous volcano explosions, tsunamis, hurricanes, and much more gives a hazardous result in the surrounding environment. As well as increased temperatures, some areas in the earth have a decreased temperatures due to heavy rains and often storms. It is not that humans can do anything to control over natural causes and events, so humans could be caused as innocent when it comes to this problem. The natural processes in the earth are happening in random times, so the environment cannot be always prepared and aware. Therefore, every time there is a natural disaster, the harm and effect is unsustainably huge for the earth to maintain the climate, nor stay in the same condition without any problems. The atmospheric levels also suffocate from hazardous substances and rays from outside the Earth, from the outer space. Other planets, mostly the Sun, hold the power strong enough to penetrate through the hard, protective atmospheric layers surrounding the Earth to harm and affect the surroundings. Heat and radioactive waves hit the ocean, savannas, drylands, rainforests, and many other regions. Then the atmospheric temperature would increase or decrease, leaving an irrecoverable trace behind. I would really like to emphasize and make it clear that human activities are not at all responsible to global climate change, especially when it comes to natural problems and disasters. My whole point of this debate is to stand up and share the fact that global climate change is not a problem and issue that humans have to be blamed and reason for causing it again. Thank you.
Okay, that's very good. And now, Hongyun, to conclude.
Okay.
You
In
maybe
conclusion,
Huh.
Huh?
Hello?
Okay.
Hello. Okay. In conclusion, I believe that human activity is primarily responsible for global climate change because the rise in the atmospheric carbon dioxide over the last century was caused by humans and it occurred at a rate much faster than the natural climate change could produce. Also, as sun hits the earth, some of the warmth is absorbed by greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and makes the sea level rise. Lastly, sea levels are rising at an unprecedented rate due to global warming.
Okay. And
치우 됐다.
나 들려?
Yes,
Oh,
we can hear you.
okay.
Eh,
Better late than
Do I
never, I
start?
guess. Yeah, Yunsun,
I
say your
start?
conclusion, then I'll come back to Jihu.
Okay.
Thank
In
you.
conclusion, over the past 10,000 years, solar minimum reduced sunspot activity have been accompanied by sharp climate changes. Between 1900 and 2000, solar irradiation increased 0.19% and correlated with the rise in U.S. surface temperatures over the 20th century. According to a 2007 study published in Energy and Environment, variations in solar activity and not the burning of fossil fuels are the direct cause of the observed multi-year variations in the climatic responses. In a 2012 study by Willie Soon, PhD physicist at the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, a strong correlation between solar radiation and temperatures in the Arctic over the past 130 years was identified. According to a 2012 study published in the Journal of Atmospheric and Solar Terrestrial Physics, up to 70% of the observed post-1850 climate change and warming could be associated with the multiple solar cycles. So human activity does not always causes the global warmings. Thank you.
So, okay. Jihu, hi.
Okay. Hi.
So we'll just hear your debate side, okay?
Yes.
I'll keep track of the time. We'll just pause we'll just finish the area, or we'll go back.
Okay, so should I do my...
Yeah, you can just go ahead and do your debate now.
Okay. As said, the temperature of our globe has been rising prominently nowadays, leading to climate changes. There are many reasons that cause this phenomenon, but it is mainly
Oh,
It's okay. If you need to, you can turn off your camera so that your internet isn't using up as much. Turn off your camera, and we'll just listen to your voice, so we can, because that's going to be the main point. Okay, go ahead.
but it is mainly caused because of human activities. Human activities have increased the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. There are many greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbon, tropospheric ozone, nitrous oxide, and water vapor. Firstly, the carbon dioxide is created by burning carbon-based materials, such as fossil fuels. This action is taken in many ways, such as riding transportations, cooking, smoke from factories, and many more. Methane, created by fossil fuel extraction and transport, has been present in the Earth's atmosphere for 800,000 years, but the rate has been increasing sharply since the 20th century. Chlorofluorocarbon, along with hydrochlorofluorocarbon, perfluorocarbon, sulfur hexafluoride, altogether called the F gases, often used like coolants, foaming agents, fire extinguishers, solvents, pesticides, aerosol propellants, has a long atmospheric lifetime. Therefore, these gases can affect the climate for centuries and decades. The nitrous oxide is produced through agricultural activities made by men and burning fossils. This gas has been rising 20% since the Industrial Revolution and has been rapidly increasing since the 20th century. Water vapor, although it has a very short atmospheric lifetime, it is a very important part in climate change. On the global scale, water vapor is controlled by temperature and affect the rate of evaporation and precipitation. Although this is not created by direct human activities that change the temperature creates the level of water vapor. Also, many people think that the energy from the sun affects the climate, but many scientists assume that this does not really change the climate because the average energy emitted by sun has been constant since 1750. Also, if the energy
What?
if the average energy let out by sun is one of the part that affects the climate change, scientists would been expecting all of the layers of the atmosphere increasing. Instead, nowadays, the temperature of the lower layer of the atmosphere is increasing, not but the upper part of the atmosphere is now cooling because of because of because the greenhouse gases traps the heat in the lower layer. Oh, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, glad we got something out of you in the end, and that you sort of fixed your internet. That was good. All right.
Yes.
So I'll give you some feedback straight away. So, Jihu, I think you tried making a lot of points, but I feel like you needed to practice a little bit more to really know what you're talking about to an extent.
Yes.
Because you paused on some parts where you built up to a point, and then the really important point you were about to make, and then you lost it, and you had to pause and make that break in your sentence, which lost a lot of flow in your debate.
Yes.
If that happens, take a
What?
sorry, and then follow through with that after taking a little break, a couple seconds. All right,
Yes.
and your voice when you got into that flow was very good. You made it very clear. I could understand everything you were saying. You just need to also, with some of your points, when you mentioned that some scientists say, try and name a couple of those scientists or a couple of those institutions that are giving those scientific facts. That really backs up your points.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
Hong Yun, very
Yes.
good for just taking over like that. That's big points because you obviously wouldn't have practiced reading that text out, and you went ahead and just did it off the spot. That was really good. Yeah, even though you were unprepared for that, you took it well.
Thank you.
You used once again a good amount of scientific statistics in your debating, which is very good. The title of this one is human activity primarily responsible for global climate change, and even though you use these scientific statistics as to how the Earth's being affected and everything as such, try referring back to directly how the humans play that role makes a huge difference. You would mention about how the fossil fuels are affecting it, and everyone can see that fossil fuels can only be burned by humans, let's say. But if you refer back to some small things like an aerosol can, and how using inefficient cars and stuff, using the fuels and etc., just adding those points to your speech, the direct how humans are directly connected, that can help a little bit more. But other than that, yeah, great, really good. And your conclusion was very nice, short, to the point, and you referred back to what you'd already said, which was good. You didn't add on extra.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. On to the other team. JE, start with you.
Yes.
You read very well. You seemed very tentative in when you were reading, like you were really thinking about what you're saying. That's good. You kept a nice flow throughout, which is always nice when reading. Did you practice a lot?
Not a lot, but I still practiced. Yeah.
Yeah? How many times did you practice? Roughly.
It's less than 10, but more than 5, I guess.
All right, go for that 10 mark, yeah?
But I got messed up because I made my screen accidentally small. So, yeah, the text was all messed up.
Okay, that's fine. Maybe if you've got access to a printer, print it out. That can help sometimes. And if you find difficult words that come along, you underline them and you practice them a little bit more.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, anyway, your debate was very good. You had good arguments and referenced how the environment affects it. I understand what you mean. You messing up. Did you also? The debate was also the same. Your text was a bit small, and you kept losing your points. Yeah. So your beginning is where you seem to you lost track right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, you got to treat that beginning part as the first impression in a debate. You have to really hit that. You have to do well and show that you know what you're talking about right from the get-go. Obviously, a little mess up like that happens, and nothing to worry about. Your points were good, and you put good emphasis at the end. I really like that, when you emphasized a certain point that you wanted to make. Overall, very good.
Yeah.
And finally, Yun Sung, the man of the group. All right. You used good referencing as always. Your scientific statistics, lots of percentages, lots of institutions and physicists. But I feel you speak really clearly, but sometimes I get lost. Sometimes listening, because I feel like you said all these statistics and numbers and everything, and you've begun your sentence, your point clear and loud, and then you seem to drop off when the real important stuff's coming through. Yes, the statistics are good, but trying to break down and crunch those numbers in your head to work out whether they're good or bad, for me, unless I'm there and I write down every single statistic, I think it would be difficult for someone to follow what you're saying. So when maybe when you're saying those statistics, compare it to something. So when you say 75% or blah, 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 is, and this side is better than this side, directly compare it right next to each other. If you could do that, then it's easier for people to go, oh yeah, that's more than that, so that means it's better, so to say, just for example. Yeah. Yeah, I think just make sure you target those important parts. Yeah, I think that was, the rest of it was pretty good. Your conclusion. Now, it was long. It was a long conclusion. And you seem to add points in your conclusion. Am I right?
Yeah,
New
yeah.
So
I don't have enough time to mention it all. like
Yeah.
in my debate part. So like,
Oh, that's fine. You used up all your time in your debate, so that's great
Yeah.
already. And you spoke fast, so you've got in a lot of points already. I wouldn't try and add points into your conclusion if you can help it. What you want to do with your conclusion is round up the points you've said and make it clear where you stand and what you think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Because you just got to remember, it's just a conclusion. If you wrote a whole essay, right, and then you went and rewrote more points for an essay and you wrote a second essay in your conclusion, you wouldn't do that, would you?
No.
No, you just want to write a conclusion and get that essay done with. Yeah. So if this is a tough one, all right? This is probably the closest one, I think, because as good as you guys are, I'm going to give it to the affirmative team because I think Hong Yun, for how you took over the point and you stood up, that was great. When Jihu couldn't do her part, you stood up and you gave a good performance. And everything was good, I think. So yeah, you guys win it this time.
Thank you.
Finally.
Finally.
Now.
But next time you will win.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. All right. You guys okay? Any questions?
No.
No.
No?
No.
Okie dokie. If there's no questions, then that'll be it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.